on America, I made a great theme. With hope in new mechanics, I blast at full steam. We can't wait for 3 hours, forward we must go. Winning the future with a tense game, not too slow. Either you or I will not live through this here match. For I bring special mechanics you cannot catch. This more life or these moments than Russian roulette. I will burn your game down to a little briquette. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Rest and Reason. I'm RP the Red Panda, and today we continue round 1 of our first season of Rest and Reason. Last time, Cosmic Encounter defeated a Game of Thrones board game and moved on to the Diplomacy Shelf Championship. On the table today, Campaign Manager 2008 will face Twilight Struggle for a chance to compete in the Majority Shelf Championship. Like all the games in round 1, Campaign Manager 2008 and Twilight Struggle have 2 main things in common. First, both games have the main area control mechanic of majority area control. Basically, players compete with each other to occupy regions where both players can have units without using super units called monsters or constant negotiation called diplomacy. Players in majority area control games aim to have the defined majority of power in each territory to gain points or attain goals. Twilight Struggle actually stands as probably the most well-known example of majority area control. Both games have the main action mechanic of action cards. Taking actions in an action card game, players choose to use the action on the card to either increase influence, or gain a power, or do an action. Although many of you will probably recognize these games, anyone who does not recognize these games should check out Calvin's Got Game review of Campaign Manager 2008 and the Dice Tower review for Twilight Struggle. Now that you understand the basics of both games, let the match begin! Round 1, Masterability! Now, your random hand of cards and random die rolls with just a single die make Twilight Struggle just a game of too many luck factors to be anything besides just slightly below average in Masterability. And Campaign Manager, which has a deck of cards that you get to choose, so you're constantly getting cards that you chose to have, and on top of that, only having a die in a single situation and one other luck element is way more masterable.
Like, you really hate random elements way too much. You, never seem to realize that winners will, overcome obstacles to win.
Alright, so yes, I am not a big fan of luck games, but that doesn't mean that I think that luck is inherently a bad design choice. But luck needs to be in one of 2 categories to be a good design choice, and that is statistical luck and mitigatable luck. First off, you have mitigatable luck. Now, mitigatable luck is where you have ways to go around the luck, whether that be that you get a bunch of cards luckily, and then you get to choose from those lucky cards. Campaign Manager has this, where you get 3 cards whenever you're drafting cards, and you have to choose one of them. That's a little bit of luck, but it's mitigatable. You can make decisions to try to make it work in your favor. There are other versions of this, like in Castles of Burgundy, where you can use workers to change your dice. So, in general, mitigatable luck just gives you rules and ways to get around the luck so that you're not just getting pure randomness, like in Twilight Struggle, where you just get a random hand of cards, and you have no control over what cards you get. The second way that luck can be good is statistical luck. Now, with a single die, you cannot really get statistical luck. Or with a completely random deck of a bunch of random cards, you really can't very easily get statistical luck. Where you have statistical luck is in either a deck of cards where there's repetition of cards, so that you know there's a certain number of them and there's a certain likelihood you'll get that card, or in a hand of dice where you have 2 or more dice, and therefore certain combinations of dice like 7 will be more likely than other combinations of dice like 2. All of these make it so that there's some statistical reason for you to believe something's going to be more or less likely every time you roll the dice. Unlike in Twilight Struggle, where you have one die that you roll and it could come up 6 every single time. Now, statistically, all the things are just as equally likely, but that's part of the problem. You never know what to bet on because every time you roll the dice, there's just as much of a chance of you rolling a 1 or a 6 or a 5 or any of the numbers on the die. 4 to 2.5, Campaign Manager 2008 wins! Round 2, Simplicity. This game, Campaign Manager, has quicker rounds and easier rules than Twilight Struggle, and that makes it a game that I can actually introduce to new players.
But, like, what about the lower luck? Lower luck, like, usually makes beginners to love things more. Why would you want to introduce to, like, a total noob a game where, like, strategy and experience generally win?
Okay, so I can see what they're saying here with Masterability often makes people feel kind of fatalistic when they walk into a game. Because they're like, well, you've played this more than I have, so you're obviously going to be better and beat me. The problem is that that's not actually true of a good Masterability game. A good Masterability game is going to make it so that anybody with a good strategy can win. And yes, an experienced player will often be able to build a little bit better strategies, but the difference here is that those strategies that they're building are a reward for them playing extra times. And for the new player, it's not a punishment. They can realize, if they think about it for 10 seconds logically, they'll realize, oh, I didn't do a bad job. I came up with a good strategy and I lost because of a good strategy. The problem is, whenever you bring a new player into a game with a lot of luck, there is that chance that they will win by that random luck and then love the game as a consequence of that. But if they fall in love with the game because of the random luck getting them a victory, they're going to inevitably learn to hate it more than likely if they lose because of that. And they will also hate it more than if they lose a game where you can actually master the game. Campaign Manager is a great example of this because, first of all, it's really nice to new players because it gives you a pre-made deck of cards, and that pre-made deck of cards helps you not have to learn the strategy and make the strategy in the game as much as the person who's already played. And it actually kind of puts the person who's already played on a back foot a little bit because they're having to design their own strategy and their own thing. And this one's designed by the creators of the game to be really good for new players. On top of this, you have the bonus that the Masterability will make it so that if they do lose, they don't feel discouraged that, well, I don't know if it was me or the luck. They know, hey, I didn't do so hot on some of my strategy, or I had a really good strategy, but they just had slightly better. Whereas in a luck game, there's that chance that they just lost based on luck, and they don't actually know that because they feel like, well, you won because you're the person who's played this a lot, and you're going, no, you just got really bad luck, or I just got really good luck. And that's hard sometimes to explain to somebody who just feels down and out. 2 to 0, Campaign Manager 2008 wins! Round 3, Mechanical Theme. So the fiddly rules that make it actually kind of hard for a new player to play Twilight Struggle are some of those rules that also seem to make the game a little more thematic. And that, of course, means mechanical theme points go up, and Campaign Manager, although pretty good with mechanical theme, just doesn't seem quite as precise as Twilight Struggle.
What the what? Didn't you just say that the fiddly rules hurt this game? Not to mention, wouldn't this mean that games would, have to make fiddly rules all the time to stay thematic? Sounds gross.
Okay. I totally understand that this sounds really bad. So it sounds like I'm saying that mechanical theme will always be really good or only be really good whenever the rules are fiddly. And nobody wants games with really fiddly rules. It's usually just too frustrating. This is not the case. Yes, sometimes fiddly rules can make it so that it feels more accurate. But usually, the better way to make it feel more accurate is actually to just scale back a little bit on the details that you're covering, and then make those general rules mechanically accurate. So instead of saying, oh, you have to pick every individual berry, make it so that you have one time that you harvest all the berries. Yes, this is going to sacrifice maybe a smidge of mechanical theme, but ultimately it's still going to give you the mechanical theme of picking the berries that you wanted overall, and therefore still score really highly or even a 5 out of 5. And that's where Twilight Struggle, though, does get those fiddly rules, and also does the general rules that make the game feel really thematic. And compared to Campaign Manager, it is true that Twilight Struggle's fiddly rules really are what make it just slightly better at its theme than Campaign Manager, because Campaign Manager has a couple small details where if they had made it more fiddly or more complicated, it probably would have been more accurate to how elections actually go. 3.5 to 4.5, Twilight Struggle wins! After listening to your reasoning, the judges have decided a winner. In this quite lopsided contest, Campaign Manager 2008 has defeated Twilight Struggle. Campaign Manager 2008 received 3.3 points and a silver recliner. The judges would generally recommend this game to anyone who wants a short and tactical head-to-head majority area control game. Twilight Struggle, the board game, received 2.65 points and a bronze recliner. The judges would specifically recommend this game to anyone who wants a long and adaptive head-to-head majority area control game. Well, that concludes episode 4 of season 1 Area Control Board Games. Having put up a specialized attack, Twilight Struggle could not outmaneuver the design of Campaign Manager 2008. Campaign Manager 2008 will return in the Majority Shelf Championship. Additionally, please hit that like button, smash that subscribe button, and ring that notification bell. And for anyone who wants to help keep this channel going, please click on the link in the description to our Patreon page. Thank you so much for watching, and join us next time for Twilight Struggle Fixed.